BEGE-144 Understanding the Novel. Introduction to the Novel. Objective, introduction, definition of a novel, origin and rising of novel, type of novel, literary trends in 18th and 19th century England, prominent novelist of the age, other prominent novelists of the age, literary trends in 19th century England, prominent novelist of the age, literary trends in 20th and 21st century, the 90s, 21st century, the man Booker Prize 21st century. Objectives. The objective of this unit to define a novel. We will also trace its origin and look at the development through the last 3 centuries very briefly. Once you finish going through this unit, you should be in the position to define a novel, to trace its origin and the development, and to be able to distinguish different type of novel. Introduction. The literary term novel may be applied to great varieties of prose writing, particularly in this day and age. The novel as a genre is not easy to define due to beginning extremely open and flexible form. Not only this, the novel also evades definition just as other literary terms do. However, since we are going to be taking about novel and study various type of novels in this course, we would still need to define a novel. A novel is largely creation of the West thought. There have been critics who have tried to locate it in the ancient writers of Egypt and writing from the Middle Age of in Japan. The truth, however, is that the novel as we know it today emerged in 18th century in England. Let us now try the work and defining a novel in the next section. Defining a novel. Edward Morgan Foster, 1879 to 1970. In his critical work, Aspect of the Novel, published in 1928, stated the novel should have a minimum length of about 15,000 words. Anything in prose that is shorter than 15,000 words would be novella or a short novel. A novella would therefore need to be longer than a long short story. We may also say that a novel should be longer than folktale, a fable, or a short story. This definition that we have worked out, however, is mercy or comprehensive definition of the term novel and would not be applied to each and every type of novel. A novel has a story to tell, but all stories do not usually develop into novels. The origin of the novel may be traced to the ancient epic and the medieval romance tradition. Origin and rise of the novel. Of the two ancestors of the novel, the epic and order form. An epic is a long narrative poem about the deeds and brave warriors and heroes who are largely than life. The epic poem has a heroic story of narrate and incorporate with it the myth, the legend, folktale, as well as history. Epic poems deals with the history of a country, a clan. In the Western tradition, there are two types of epic: primary, secondary, and literary. Primary epic by and large belong to the oral tradition, whereas secondary or literary epic belongs to the written form of literature. Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey, Beowulf and Gilgamesh are important examples of primary epic, while Virgil and Aeneid, the Milton, Paradise Lost are fine illustration of the literary epic. In India have Ramayana and Mahabharata as well as Kalidas, Abhignana Shakuntalam and Meghadootam, which are counted among the classics of world literature. The epic tradition has come down to use very unique manners. For instance, the last 100 years or so, cinema has been the favorite media of narratives on an epic scale. Novels such as Herman Melville's Mobedas 1851, Tolstoy's War and Peace 1865 to 72, Anna Karenina 1875 to 76, and James Joyce Finnegan's Wake 1939 have all been made into film. Now let us look at the second source of the modern novel, the romance. The romance was a literary form that is popular in medieval times. In the 13th century, a romance was the adventure story usually of love or charville, and it was written in verse. It must be remembered that romance is a primary European form and about characters that live in a country world. The world romance itself is suggested of elements of fantasy, improbability, and extravagance, as well as love, adventure, and marvelous, and it was written in verse. However, time it came to written in prose. During medieval time, there were three cycles: the matter of Britain, the death, the stories of legend of King Arthur and Knight of the Round Table. The matter of Greece and Rome that told the story of Alexander the Great, the Trojan War, the House of Thieves. The master of France, the narrated the tales of the brave and Charvilla of King uh, Carlomag in his night. We had to try to defend both the epic and romance as they are forefather of the novel. Interesting, the novel owes in names of Italy words novella means a tale or piece of news. The novel is called Roman and derived from the word romance. But before I conclude, let me also tell you that yet another important predecessors of the novel was the epic narrative, the original in Spain in the 16th century. Most of you may aware the novel, The History of the Tom John and Fordling, Henry Fielding. This 18th century novel is written in the uh, Picasso tradition with a Picasso or rogue of hero protagonist, and the novel deals with his escapes. So essentially, what I am trying to tell you is that the novel has three process: A epic, B romance, and three Pacaric narrate. Pacaric narrate. The novel therefore may be defined as a long story written, the printed in the book form and dealt with the imagination, people situation while creating an illustration of the reality. The novel was born in the West Primary in 17th century, but its development took place largely in the 18th century. Critics have tried to trace the origin to the ancient Egypt or in medieval Japan, but novel is a genre. Was the creation of the West. Some critics like Walter Lees have in stated that with the work of Richardson and Field, the career of novel may be said to have begun. This is bring to me to the next important point. Why did the novel flourish in 18th century English? There were several reasons for that, and let me tell you about them very quickly. The Industrial Revolution had taken place in England and the rest of Europe. This meant the people had more illustrate and could dedicated to read and write. Moreover, industrialization led to tremendous improvement in printing technology. As a result of what more book novel could be printed and too easily. Then book clubs and circulator literacy was gained popularity as well. The other important reason for the rise of development of the novel in 18th century England was the change in socio-political, social, cultural millennium. The old system of protagonists was gradually cornered to the end, and the writers did not need to look towards the feudal lords of protagonism. They could not turn to the reading public of support. The 18th century was the center of relative peace and proposal in England, and England emerged as international power with the strongest navy in the world, an economic power, and dominant middle class began to emerge along with the steady increasing in population. Literacy too saw a sharp rise. Having given the various session behind the developing of novel in 18th century, England, let me now tell you about the different types of novels and where are still being written in the next section. Type of the novel. In this section we shall take look at the different type of novel. Critic down the agency have tried to classify novel into various types. If we are in emergence in all type of novel, it may be not be useful endeavors and nor rigid classification is possible as the same novel may be belongs to more than one type. However, we do need a typology of the simple reason that they are convenient as they provide us with easy label with that help us to knowing what to ancient in the particular use with easy label with help knowing the ancient particular novels. In this session, we try and give some shaping to the various of novels by classifying the one of the basis of one, the extra-disciplinary field. They are close to such as sociological novels, psychological novels, political novels, historical novels, religious novels, and scientific fictions. These are the extra-disciplinary field. And there is a subject matter. Number two, there are subject matter such as utopian novels, criminal novels, detective fiction, and Bildangoran man. Number three, uh, their literary style, structure, technique such as epitoral novels, realistic novel, naturalistic novels, theme of conflict novel, psychological novels, or novel character. Number four, the particular emotions that evoke such as romantic novel, seminal novels, or the epic novels. Number five, the participation class interest that they evoke, such as boundaries novels or the Portland novels. The geographical area that are highlighted, such as Westman, local color novels, or novel of the social soil. The geographical area of which are novel hail, such as Indo Anglian novels, Commonwealth novels, and African novels. Apart from this, there are other classifications as well. Let us begin by telling you about novel incident. Good illustration of this type of novels are the novels of Daniel Defoe, novels such as Robin Crusoe in 1719 and Moll Fleur in 1722. Both these novels are the Picarat narrative type of the structure of these novels is epic rather than originated plot form. The both novels also have an conveying central protagonist. The next step under the discussion, the novel characters and may be known as psychological novel. The focus in such as novel is a protagonist motivates on what she does or how she will turn over the person. A good example in Samuel Richards' Pamela or Virtual Rewarded 1914. Pamela was might also be considered an episodal novel in which the narrative is communicated to through the lecture. This type of novel is also to be found in more recent times such as Alice Walker, The Color of Purple. That we have to realistic novel that is characterized largely by fictional effect of realism. In such novels, the characters are often complex and operate within the developed social structures while trending with a large number of characters. The exponents of such realistic novels are Defoe, Field, Jane Austen, George Eliot, and Henry James, among others. For the writings of people such as Jane Austen emerged the novel of manner or novel that focus on the customs, conversation, and way of thinking and values of particular social classes. The Boundrum Roman and Erzicium Roman or novel of formation or novel of Edward. M.S. Abraham B. 1903 is yet another type of novel. The main theme of such type of novel is develop of main characters in protagonist's mind and character through the narrative. Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre 1847, the George Eliot, the Mill on the Fosse 1816, or E.V.J.D. Sangler, the Stutter in the Ray 1951, the examples of such type of novels. Then there are other novels such as Henry Becker's Stover, Uncle Tom Cabin, the John Swinburne's The Grape of Worth, These examples of social novels. If we have read either of these novels, we will find that such novels are influenced by the prevailing social economic condition of the age in which the novels written in writing. Sir Walter Scott novels such as Ivanhoe's 1819 and Charlotte Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities and examples of historical novels. As obviously from terms is in terms of historic novels, novels deals with not only the character but also the social political system or real historical age. There are many different type of novel of intense documentary fiction, non-fictional novel, regional novel, involved novel, anti-novel, Nova environment, their new novel, magic realism, metafiction, and fabulation, to name just few, but for our purpose. The type of we have dealt with some dealt are sufficient. Literacy begins in 18th and 18th and 19th century of England. The English ceremony in England 18th century was the age of Edward 18th and 19th century of England. 18th century England was the age of transition of Edward Albert, what put is in the history of English literature. This was the age when two distinct traits of influence were at the work simultaneously. The first of these twins started with uh, the first of the twins straight was the adhere, the elegance of even the deny of the all others of classicism. Classicism. The straight was the romanticism. Romanticism it turned to real nature and new look. The human position and role in the midst of the nature world. It is also meet a new way of looking at the poor and oppressed and the drastic changes in diction. The writers were now aiming for simplicity and sincerity in their words. They were turned into legends and the myth of the old for their inspiration with such as trends in place. It became important for writers to revive ancient literacy forms such as the ballads as yet. There was also general sense of inquiry and keen interest that began to create an entirely new spirit of thinking. Writers also began turn to history of their stories. In generally, there were sympathy and freshers in the write-up of the period. Prominent novelist of the age. Samuel Richard, 1689 to 1776, is one of the prominent novelists of the period. He was over 50 when Pamela or Virtue Rewarded was published in 1714. This novel is the form of series of letters and epironal novel. His next major novel was uh, Clarissa Harwood, 1749 to 40. Henry Field, 1772 54. The novel Joseph Andrew appears 1742. Fielding does having with the episodal novel and a new and powerful novel that carries the reader away with the his border and vivacious humor and gentle and half contemplates inlight in human nature. Edward Albert, his great novel however was Tom John, realism in hallmark of Fielding novel. Other prominent novelists of the age, uh, Tobias Sommerlette, 1725 to 71, Adventure of Roderick Random 1748, Lawrence Strenny 1732-68, The Life of Option of Transistor Sandy Gen, Horace Walpole, The Castle of Otranto, Literary Trends, 17th century England. This period saw the actual flourishing romanticism in all the absence as far as novel was concerned. The historical and the domestical novel were established very firm by Sir Walter Scott and Jane Austen. It was, however, the more fruit period, the period of product great poets such as William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, John Kettle, Percy Bysshe Shelley, and Lord Byron. Prominent novelists of the age. A. Sir Walter Scott. Uh, Novels are Gay Manners, The Heart of the Midlothian. Jane Austen novels Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility. William Makepeace Thackeray, Vanity Fair, The History of the Henry Esmond. Charles Dickens, Sketches by Boz, The Tale of Two Cities. George Eliot, Adam Bay, Middle March, A Study of Provincial Life. Thomas Hardy, Disparate Remedies, Far from the Middle Crowds. Literary trends in the 20th century, 20th and 21st century. In the 20th century, the America on the Europe traditions of novel formed was largely divided into two major literary movements: transism modernism and postmodernism, or the period of modernist literature 1900 to 40, and the postmodern literary period 1960 to 19, more or less clarity divided by the World War II years 1930 to 45. The other literary trends that was the between the two large movements of the century was the contemporary period, contemporary literature, which was a large literature written after 1960s. The point of remember here is these literary movements also affected, influenced, and included literary form of Africa, Australia, and Asia as well. The advance in technology in this century also mean that production of book became cheaper, which in turn led prominent rise in the production of what is called the popular literature and travel literature. We have taken about popular literature at the length in the BA English Honor course BGC 106. So, if any of you wish to read more one popular literature to read through the material upload here, again gosh. We also know that there came to divide between what was now higher literature and popular literature in the last century. We are aware that distinguish are not really absolute, that there was interesting genre in popular literature and could fit the both categories such as crime, detective, and science fiction. For Indians, there are several award instituted given these days of these two genres: crime and detective fictions and science fictions. Nebula Award in 1964 onwards, the British Fantasy Award since 1970, the Mythopic Award 1971, the 90s, the 1990s. The 1990s saw the rise of multiculturalism in new media, alternative media, and these trends were continued till with the 2000-2010. As a result of these trends in the music sense, we also movement like garnang, rave, and hip hop gather monument globally. The open the capitalism, liberation, the breakdown of the Berlin Wall, and end of the Cold War, the introduction of new media. the dissolution of the formed Union of the Soviet Socialist Republic USSR, the dot-com bubble 1997 2000, all these factors combine and ushered in a new era in literary production. A large number of former colonies gained their independence. Countries such as uh, Namibia from South Africa. Walvis Bay, written by South Africa, joined Namibia in 1994. Croatia, Slovakia, Bosnia, and Herzegovina and Macedonia declared independence for Yugoslavia. The Slovak Republic became independent from Czech and Soviet Federal Republic. Uh, Eritrea from Ethiopia. Paul from the United Nations Trusting Council in the United Kingdom hand over the sovereignty of the Hong Kong of People Republic China, East Timor form of Indonesia, Portuguese hand over the Soviet Makatu People Republic of China, the Republic Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Estonia, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Latvia, Lithuania, Moldova, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Ukraine, and Uzbekistan broken away the USSR. While all this was happening in politically around the globe, in literature, J.K. Rowling is the Harry Potter series. The debut in 1997 was huge popular. John Grisham was the best-selling author of United States with over 6,000 million copies sold. The novels such as The Pilkane Brief, The Silent, and The Frame. Stephen King, King Daniel Steele, Michelle Crichton, Tom Conway, as well as R.L. Strain with the Goosebumps series were uh, extremely popular. Some of the well-known as literary writers and books of the decade were John M.C. Garman, among the women W.J. Sebastian Vargas, Raphael Patel, the Herbie Gold, Terry Paratach, and Neil Gaiman. Good Omens, the Robert Jordan, The Eye of the World, to name of the few. The 21st century. The 21st century is the current century that will and end on the December 31st, 2099. It is the first century of the 3 millennium. The first 2 decades of the century have been marked by the rise of globalization. The world consumerized the global concern over terrorism and increase in the private enterprise, negative effect of global warming and raising sea level, Arab Spring 2010 civil war, overthrow in various governments in the United States of America as the only global superpower, and with the people of the Republic China continuously for the post of emerging superpower. This century has also seen almost 49.3% in 2070 of the global population living in various former democratic countries, the expansion of European Union EU with a common current called Euro, the withdrawing form of Euro, but United Kingdom most emerged the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, the main Booker Prize of the 21st century. Margaret Atwood, the blind assassin, Peter Carvey, the true history of the Kelly gang, Ian Martin, Life of Pi, DBS Preeny, Baron God Little, Alan Hollinger, The Line of Beauty, John Bravely, The Sea, Karen Desai, The Inherence of Loss, Annie Enright, The Gathering, Arrived uh, Idinga, The White Tiger, Hilary Mantel, The Wolf Hall, Howard Jochen, The Fenric Question, Julian Barner, The Sense of an Ending, Hallery Ending, Hilary Mantel, Bring Up of the Bodies, Elander Catton, The Lumerius, Richard Franklin, The Narrow Road to the Deep North, Marlon James, The Brief History of Seven Kills, Paul Beatty, The Sword, George Sado, Lincoln in the Bardo, Anne Bunce Milkman, Margaret Atwood, The Testament, and the Bernardine Evans Girl, Woman, Other, the award of literary prize such as the Man Booker, one of the highest award of literary indicated for important is according to novel with the global. Let us sum up. In this unit, we have defined the novel as a genre, look the origin of the novel and its rise in a literature genre in the 18th century England. We have also examined the different type of novel, summarized the chief literary trends of 18th in 19th century England as well as novel right in the 20th and first two decades of 21st century. Apart from that, we have mentioned prominent novels of age. Having read this unit carefully, for example, you be able to define novel, to be able to recognize the novel as a genre, to be able to identify various type of novel. Alexander the Great was ancient Greek king of Macedonia. He was one of the most successful battle by the time of the death. He had constituted most world known as ancient Greek and had traveled as far as India, particularly in this area. He exploited the stuff of the legend and folklore and subject of many romance. Charlemagne of Charles the Great or Charles I of France of the Holy Roman Empire, the king of uh, France from 1768 to his death. His rule is also associated with the Carolingian Renaissance. The reveals of art, religion, the culture through medium of Catholic Church, his foreign conflict and international forms, helping defined by Western Europe and Middle Age. Today is not only regular as a founding father of both, is not only regarding of the founding father of both French and German monarchy, but as the father of Europe. His empire united most Western Europe for the first time since the Roman and the Carolingian Renaissance, according to the formats of the common European idea. Fable, a fictional story meant to the teach a moral lesson. A character in fables are usually take animal. Folktale, the large body of oral literature belongs to the tribes or nation or ethnic group. How to the Thieves? Thebes was a city of grace situated north of the Cithaeron range. Cithaeron range is divided in Boeotia from Attica and on the southern end of Boeotian plains. It is played an important role in the fabric Greek myth as a site of the story of Cadmus, Oedipus, Dionysus, and others. In ancient times, Thebes was the largest city of the region of Boeotia and was the leader of Boeotian confederacy. It was major rivals of ancient Athens and said to the Persians during 480 BC. Involved in Xerxes, the Thebes was a major force of Greek history and was the most dominant city and the type of Macedonia consisted of Greece. During the Byzantine period, the city was famous for its silk. King Arthur. King Arthur is believed to be the importance of English leader in Britain, legendary history and heroes of many medieval tales and chronicles. He is said to have take the mantle of rules over Britain and defined his land against Sixagan invader following the withdrawal of Rome. The stories of King Arthur include numerous elements of both legend as well folktale tradition. While something history doubt is very exciting, the legend that we to become King Arthur was largely developed by the resetting of the writing Geoffrey Monmouth, but in the needs to be reminders that were already large numbers of Walvish as well brought on stories and a poem about King Arthur maybe uh, were before Geoffrey of Monmouth even were in historical legum Britannic of King of Britain. Legend. The story hand down the generation of among a people a popular belief to the historical basis all not just verify all such stories belong to a particular group of people are also known as legends. Memory, the biography of a biography or biographical sketches, usually one written by someone who knows the subject well, an autobiography, especially one that objective and encyclopedical and emphasis rather than inward and subjective. Medieval characters or a congestion of middle age. Myth, a traditional story of known as authorship or ostensibly with the historical basis by secu usual to explain some phenomena of nature, the origin of man or the customer, institution, religious sites, etc. of the people. Narratives of having the nature of narration of the story form a story around patron patronage. The function was status of patron, support in government, sponsorship, etc. given in patron, goodwill, famous, count, etc. should be people considered inferior condition, condensation. Travelogue, a lecture on travel usually accomplished by the showing of a picture both still moving or on slide. Thank you for watching.